And someone that's coming in, I suppose I'm trying to think as we're chatting about the differences between the clients you're working at in Bora who've all day to ride their bike versus average Joe coming in. And one of the things that we touched on a couple of times is we can't just ride our bike all day. I wake up this morning, I want to go ride my bike, but we do a podcast and I have another couple of emails to get back to. I'll ride my bike, I'll come back, I have more work to do. And that's the reality for most of us. So fatigue is a big issue because I suppose the outcome of a session we're trying to get is to get faster on the bike, not to tick a box and just say we've done a session. So it's that recovery gives us that space to get the adaptation. How do you think about feedback mechanisms?
So feedback comes in many forms. One being what you see in a data file, obviously. From an athlete, you can see if their session was done well within the ranges, etc., that you want. For myself personally, I still believe very much in that human communication in terms of feedback, where it's like a simple message is, hey, how'd you feel? And then from an external side, I use the submaximal fatigue test, which is every sort of 7 to 10 days. And that tracks everything. Essentially, it tracks progression, whether you are or aren't progressing with your specific athlete. And that to me is when you correlate kind of all of those together, you get a full picture of where the athlete actually is.
What's the submaximal fatigue test?
It started off as Lambert's submaximal fatigue test. As a company, we sort of took that data and just sort of fine-tuned it a little bit. So it's a 3-minute test at a specific power range that you would prescribe to that athlete. So hypothetically, it's anything from threshold to 110% of threshold as a power value. And they would perform that 3-minute at that specific power, as I said, every sort of 7 to 10 days, depending where they are, maybe in a block of racing, if it allows it or not. Then you would move it up. Once the athlete has completed that, there's a very short questionnaire, which involves RPE value for the 3 minutes, your time to exertion, and then other external factors like sleep, mood, wellness, tracks your weight, etc. We get that back as correlated data, and then we track that. And that can track whether an athlete is progressing. So is our stimulus correct between intensity, as an example, and recovery, or are we going in the opposite direction where the athlete is fatigued and we need to change training, or is the stimulus not correct and he's plateaued or stagnated? And that is, when done correctly, reporting from the athlete, it's almost bulletproof. The other benefit is that if they are kind of lying on it, and you can pick up bullshit, to be honest, and make sure that it's, and you say to them, hey, like these factors and metrics aren't kind of correlating. Let's make some changes.
Can this be a field test, or do you need them in the lab doing lactates during it as well? Like, what's the protocol for it?
No, it's outside. So they do it kind of any day. So as an example, if I give it to you and you have a 2-hour recovery ride, or even if you have intervals, you would do that within the first sort of 10 minutes of your ride and then go and do the rest of your training for the day.
Very interesting. I hadn't heard of it before. And is there enough time? So it's every 7 to 10 days. You prescribe a training block, 10 days. I do a sub-maximum fatigue test 10 days later. Is there enough time for my body to absorb that training and make an adaptation that's noticeable in the data?
Yes, you typically get really good data straight away from that.
Is this standard in World Tour at the moment, or is this something you guys are kind of pioneering?
It's not standard. We had introduced it. Obviously, myself and my business partner, Jaron Swat, were at UAE together, and we had introduced it there. And we had introduced it as a company with our athletes, with a specific kind of category of athletes. And we had obviously then brought it over for monitoring there, and I've just carried it over to Bora with my specific group of athletes that I use now, that I work with now.
It's a great idea because most of us intuitively know inside, you're starting a 20-minute threshold effort. Inside 2-3 minutes, you have a really good idea how you feel. You have a really good idea how the rest of that session is going to go. Yeah. Like I've started a threshold effort after a long day, and it's like you get on it, and within 2-3 minutes, heart rate's not where it should, RPE is not where it should, and you're like, I'm going to suffer so bad for the next 20 minutes.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And what we ask is obviously as they do the 3 minutes, they fill that sort of very short questionnaire out straight away. So as soon as they do it, I get that feedback straight away. And I would look at it, and if things really aren't good, I would make contact with that athlete straight away and say, like, look, abort the session, or like if it's fine, I don't report to them straight away and they carry on going.
If you enjoyed this video and you want to keep binge watching the content, check this video. It's a cracker. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That way I can catch you in the next one. See you then.